Students, today we shall discuss the poem Moon Wind. Okay, we have already learned the poem, the early classes, and today we shall just revise the poem. I hope you have learned the 8 lines of the poem and the question answers and the given exercises and have prepared for the half yearly well. So, what is the poem? The Moon Wind. Who has written the poem? But by Ted Hughes. So, Moon Wind by Ted Hughes is full of poetic fantasy. So, when we read this poem, we can understand that the Moon Wind written by Ted Hughes is full of poet's fantasy and imaginary. He imagines that if there were earth-like life on moon, everything would be blown by the strong wind blowing there. That is what he imagines in the poem. The poet imagines that the moon wind is so strong that it could rip apart anything held by root, nails and screws. So here the poet tells us about the wind that blows on the moon. He mentions many strange things that are happening on the moon. He says that there isn't any wind on the moon, but still things are blowing away. There is no wind, then also the candle shivers out. When we read the poem, we can see that when there is no wind also, the candle shivers out. So, what he tries to tell us through this poem, he tries to tell us that many things are happening there, and finally he says that nothing can resist the moon's dead still blast. It is dead as it is, nor blowing or moving, it is silent. So we can say that the whole poem is written in imagination, that these things may happen in future. So the poet also is telling these things can happen in future also. So in the poem, it is full of fantasy. Fantasy means the imagination. The writer imagines that there were earth-like life on moon. Everything would be blown by the strong wind blown there. The poet says again, as he imagines, the burning candle on the moon would shiver in spite of the total silence. A giant tent would be blown away by the moon wind, which looked like a huge swan flying over the sea. If anyone would stand in the street, a skull of hen and cabbages would knock you off your feet. So the next stanza, the 4th stanza, he says that he imagines that if one would be on the moon wind lift the pond water as a sheet and hit you with it, carrying frog in it. So when we come to the 5th stanza, it tells, the moon wind lift of a caravans, a fairy's wheel would appears to be jumping in the sky like a somersaulting giraffe. So the last stanza, the 6th stanza of the poem, it tells, the poet imagines that the moon wind is so strong that it could rip apart anything held by root, nails and screws. So it is, finally we can say that it is dead and it is nor blowing or moving. It is silent. So it is completely silent. Written. The author is Ted Hughes. Okay, that's a summary of the poem. and you will be learning. So many difficult words are there in the poem. You will be learning. I have given already all the words and the line by explanation in the early classes. So we will be going through that class and understanding the poem again and learn the 8 lines of the poem and prepare well for half yearly exam. Thank you students for listening.